Hey, good evening to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here. It is now Monday, June 17th, 2024. Thanks for waiting for me. Down here in Pensacola with my wife, visiting her family with a few of my kids. We went over to Orange Beach today. Can you tell? Gulf Shores. By the way, speaking of Gulf Shores, Hog Wild, great place. Some of you recommended it last night when I asked about it on the old Twitter. Thumbs up. Very good place there in Gulf Shores, Alabama. So anyway, while I've been gone, lots of things been happening. So at least we have a more interesting update than had I done it early this morning. So there's a lot to talk about. We have this very active pattern now that is starting to produce our first, at least in this situation, our first potential tropical cyclone. Pretty likely this will go on to become Alberto, and then we are not done yet. Maybe, just maybe, before the month of June is over, we will end up with 3 named storms. We'll have to see about that. So let me show you what we got. Some of this you're already aware of, but I'm going to reiterate it and give it my special touch along the way. First of all, PTC, Potential Tropical Cyclone. That means it is not one yet, but it has the potential to become one, and advisories are initiated, and as such, we get stuff like the cone and watches and warnings, in this case, watches only, from parts of the central Texas coast southward into parts of Mexico, and of course, it's all about the impacts. We're going to talk about that as we go forward. Pretty large system being born out of that big Central American gyre. And wait till I show you the satellite imagery of that in just a moment. But I want to draw your attention to this nice little dashboard that they've got here at the National Hurricane Center. When you look at one of these systems, this is potential tropical cyclone 1. It could be hurricane so-and-so or tropical storm, whatever. Once you click on that from the home page, you come to this, which gives you all those little thumbnails. And these graphics are very, very helpful for you to understand what is going to happen. Because it is not an X or a plot or a dot. Like on our paper tracking maps, you plot those things on there. That's not the storm. The whole entirety of it is the storm. Big wind field, rainfall, the potential of onshore flow with some storm surge maybe. And here's some examples. This is the potential rainfall. As you can see, those yellows and golds up into oranges. 12 to 16 inches, 8 to 12 inches maybe. I guess 12 to 16 is more red. But you get the idea, a lot of rainfall down here with this system, including parts of Texas. All right, I mentioned even the other day, I think several updates ago, that this could affect parts of the Rio Grande Valley. Now that looks like a near certainty. Northern Mexico, south central Texas, and then even spreading inland. Let's use black to make this pop better. And that's, I guess, a good thing, but you just don't want too much of a good thing. We all need the rainfall, but you don't want there to be too much. But you really can't control that, can you? Nope. But just be aware of it. So again, going back to the National Hurricane Center homepage, just want to show you this. You look on here, you see these X's and whatnot, and sometimes there'll be a storm symbol or a hurricane symbol. You can either click on that, and it takes you to the dashboard, or you click on the name down here. Let's see, where does it say it? I guess it just shows you the dashboard right there. How about that? Anyway, you get the idea. Really helpful tools here. Everything from wind speed probabilities, arrival time of those winds, so forth and so on. Please take advantage of that. Now, check this out. I believe this is showing us the way for later in the season. Our potential tropical cyclone is sitting right down here. I'm going to use yellow so it pops better. Our PTC is sitting right down here. But ladies and gentlemen, look at this just massive area of upper level high pressure. You can clearly see, hopefully you can clearly see that anticyclonic flow out of this massive area of favorable winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. It is huge. If this were later in the season, August, September, for example, I believe this might be showing what we're going to have with this massive area of favorable upper level winds once in a while parked every couple weeks or so over this part of the basin. And then you're going to have these stronger disturbances coming in, these tropical waves later. that have more energy, they're more ready to go than this large gyre. And at the surface, you can clearly see this gyre thing in here, very well defined, textbook example of it, but over the top, this very favorable pattern, this outflow pattern here. If this is showing us what's coming later in the season, which I think it could be, and it's not going to be permanent, this will come and go, but the upper levels, this is part of that very favorable Madden-Julian oscillation we've been talking about. There it is, and I think later in the year when we get more potent seedlings, this could be something that we really have to pay attention to because it could give birth to strong hurricanes for a large geographic area. We don't know where they're going to end up, but I believe this is kind of a warning shot. I really do. So this is what the different modeling shows. This is the GFS. First of all, I like this over on Dr. Cowan's site. Look at all this green in here that I'm outlining in yellow. That is your precipitation rate, and that's a lot of it. Just kind of wanted to show you that. Now let's switch it up to the part of the atmosphere that I like to show you where we look at the structure. 850 millibars, and that's about 5,000 feet up. This is from the 12Z run today. Pay attention to our system down here. We use blue to highlight it. There it is right there, a large area of energy, that's for sure. So let's see what happens with it, at least on the global model perspective. Huge sprawling area, one piece of energy just kind of pinches off right here, you'll see that, and then quickly makes its way towards Texas, while the rest of the big gyre sits down there. I'm going to tell you something, it's hard for the models to, quote, figure this out because there's so much energy and available potential energy down there that the global models are not necessarily having an easy time figuring out where that concentrated vorticity is going to be, and so we're not getting an easy solution. This is going to be a hard one, but it is all about the impacts, and the one thing that I can guarantee you, and just look at all that yellow and oranges in here, that is your energy, that's your vorticity, that translates to clouds and showers and heavy rain and all that kind of stuff. And yes, this is going to produce a lot of rainfall for the region, and that is always an impact from tropical systems. So start over. This comes in and goes on in there, and then you notice our next system out here. This is the other area that the National Hurricane Center has outlined, and it looks like about a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. And it comes around that ridge. Probably the air is too dry. It's too early in the season. Pressures are too high. That kind of thing. There's a lot working against this feature, but look at that. It makes its way right over my house. I literally live right there. I'll be back long before this. This is Saturday evening, and I'll be back before then. But then I draw your attention to this down here. Yet another feature tries to get born out of the overall pattern of favorability sitting down here, and that is why our thumbnail today says active pattern setting up. See how this is going? So this is Saturday evening on into Sunday. That system milling around down there. Now we're out beyond 7 days, but you get the idea. Yes, that is a very active pattern for June, when climatologically speaking, we don't usually see much happening at all. The Euro from the 12Z run today paints a similar picture, just different scenarios, trying to handle all of this energy. Our system off the southeast coast is more of an open trough sitting over here. Let's see if I can draw a straight line through there. No, this mouse sucks, but you get the idea. It's not closed off and solid looking. I got to get a new mouse or whatever, especially for the road. But no, it's not showing anything that really jumps out at us. Just some energy sliding in there. But then the Euro does develop another broad system. Again, a lot of heat, a lot of energy down there. What happens with it, that's darn near 10 days out, so don't let that spook you too much. Try to keep it within a week's time there, right about there. I forget, these are at 3-hour intervals. Bottom line, yes, the pattern looks active as we continue on towards the latter portion of June, with potential impacts every few days from something. Either something coming up out of the Northwest Caribbean, southern Bay of Campeche area, southwestern Gulf, maybe the western Atlantic, and that could be setting the tone for the rest of the season. 05 and 2020 were like that, where every week to 10 days or 2 weeks or so, we saw something brewing up. Now this is pretty neat right here. Honestly, I did have a morning update planned, but it was a little too early, and we tried to get out of here and do this family stuff. It's real important to have family time. especially when you're as busy as I can get. But I had already loaded this in, and you noticed this was from 12 UTC down here, so it was from 8 a.m. Eastern time, and I'm glad I left this up, because let's compare this vorticity signature to just recently. Look at that. So things have definitely changed. That's a pretty good little stop frame animation, whatever you want to call it. There's the Vort signature with PTC number 1, and then this is some of that energy associated with that other system that the National Hurricane Center will be watching. Those are the areas that we're keeping an eye on, and you can see how that energy is gradually coming along, trying to bundle up, but it's not there yet. This is elongated. This is spread out over a pretty big area. I'm looking to see if some area really concentrates and looks like a ball. And that's where that conservation of angular momentum, the bundling of that heat energy, everything gets more consolidated. We're getting there, but the systems are not quite there yet. And it's early in the season, and that's a good thing because we know generally, probably what's coming later in the season. So over at Dr. Cowan's current storms page, all kinds of good information here. I want to show you some of these models here, the spaghetti models as they are so often called. Not much threat to Texas for the center of circulation to make landfall, but north of that is sensible weather, weather that you can feel, and that weather will spread inland, right? Right. It's not just about the center. Remember that, please. So definitely some impacts coming for portions of Texas, some of the different model ensembles, etc. And you see this making landfall potentially, whatever it is, down in central Mexico. But again, onshore flow north into Texas could create some coastal flooding concerns and that heavy rain potential. All right? Elsewhere in the tropics and subtropics and whatnot, sea surface temperature updates for you. Mid-Atlantic southeast coast continuing to progress. Water temperatures over in this area, 80, 79, 80, 81, depending on where you are, Gulf Stream, whatever. Mid-Atlantic up into the northeast. Much colder, but as we get closer to July, those water temperatures will warm. Remember a few days ago when I said, let's watch, come on, draw on it, please. Let's watch this area right here. I should have saved that map from that day. Maybe I'll do a screenshot of it for later in the week. I don't know, it's not that important. But yes, 90L, hey, the air conditioner intake thing finally shut off. It's competing against itself. It sounded like I was yelling today, that's why. Anyway, this is cooled off. These are not anomalies. This is your actual sea surface temperatures, but all of this was filled in with like a 30-degree isotherm several days ago. And I said, hey, let's watch and see how this changes. And sure enough, the upwelling and the churning from Invest Area 90L changed it just a little bit. So even the blues there, don't let that throw you too much. That is still 28 Celsius, so 82. It's still very warm. And by the way, where we were today, the family and I, up here in the Orange Beach area, we were, of course, on the back bay side, or whatever you call it, not the Gulf. The Gulf, just speaking of that, is very churned up right now. We saw the one red flag, so high surf advisory, that kind of thing, rip current stuff. And the purple flag, which I had to explain to my 9-year-old that that's marine life. She's like, what marine life? I'm like, well, jellyfish maybe, some sharks. She wasn't going for that at all. Doesn't want to do the shark thing, and I can't blame her. But water temperatures up here, very warm, as is all of the Gulf. But looking over here where PTC 1 will be milling around, water temperatures very warm there, low to mid 80s, and in some cases getting close to the upper 80s, especially in the shallower waters closer to the Texas and Louisiana coastlines. All right? Anomalies. Boy, this continues to just blow my mind. Anybody that watches this stuff, look at these positive anomalies, warmer than average in that horseshoe shape, classic signature for a very busy hurricane season, and we are only in the middle part of June here. There is the absence of El Nino. Let's just call it that, because there is no El Nino. That is absolutely certain. 100%. There will be no El Nino this year. And then you've got the very warm Gulf, so we'll put a positive there in terms of favorability, a very warm Caribbean. We'll put 2 positives here, really, because this is extra favorable. This very, very favorable Atlantic basin, the deep tropics down there, something to watch as we go forward. And then just zooming in a little bit, look at, I mean, even despite what 90L did down here, knocking these anomalies down a little bit, still a half a degree above the norm. Everything else quite a bit warmer than it should be. Caribbean Sea, toasty, toasty. Wow. We know what's coming. We're seeing the beginnings of it now. Even though it's not really related to any deep tropical stuff over here, this stuff that's happening here and then maybe in the Southwest Atlantic, all part of the overall pattern of a generally very favorable setup overall. All right? Can't leave without mentioning the old maps once again. I even brought some with me while I'm on this brief family time so I can pack them up and mail them. In fact, I'll be mailing one this evening over at the kiosk at the Pensacola Post Office. Paper tracking map, if you want to get one, they are awesome, 18 by 24 inches, full color, and you can track this season's tropical systems on your very own paper map. I'll put the link if you want to order one in the description of today's video, and you can get one and track along. Like I said, pretty neat. I still need to do a video because some people don't know what that means. What do you mean a paper tracking map? Well, I'll have to show you sometime soon, and maybe that'll generate some more interest as well. I think I've got about 25 of them left. All right, so there you go. There's an update for you. We're staying in an Airbnb here in the Pensacola area. Good to be with you guys. Yeah, I'll have another update early tomorrow morning because we hit the road to start heading back home. But yeah, there will be a lot to talk about as this active pattern sets itself up. Doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, and you guys need to stay on top of it. Impacts are already going to be happening. You know the drill. This stuff is not just about where's the hurricanes. It's all the other stuff too, seemingly minor, that can add up to giving us some major problems like what we had with 90L South Florida, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why we stay on top of this stuff, even when I'm on vacation. All right, that's enough for me. Have a good rest of your evening. From all of us at the HurricaneTrack family, our community, we appreciate you tuning in. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you again early tomorrow morning.